The story begins as massive, ominous pillars suddenly emerge from this ground. Barriers instantly form and a column of purple light pierces the sky. At the same time, monsters known as disaster beasts descend upon the human world. These creatures launch a brutal assault on humanity without warning. Amid the slaughter, a boy's father desperately shouts for him to run and survive. The streets dissolve into chaos as civilians flee in terror. Out of nowhere, a monster wreathed in blue flames locks its gaze on the child. It fires an attack toward him and his mother. In a final act of love, she shields her son, taking the blow herself, and with her last breath, tells him to escape. Moments later, the boy jolts awake from the nightmare as someone calls his name. A pink-haired girl asks what's wrong, but he brushes it off, saying it's nothing. She eyes him skeptically and presses further, noticing tears on his face and asking why he's crying. Before he can respond, a friend interrupts and points out a teacher wearing an unusually strange outfit. The instructor begins explaining the concept of the awakened and references a war that occurred 10 years ago. A classmate is shocked that Itsuki doesn't know Commander Menuizumi. The teacher clarifies that Menuizumi was the very first awakened, the strongest of them all and the one who trained humanity's most legendary heroes. He goes on to explain that ordinary people can awaken their powers by touching a monolith. Everyone gathered will soon attempt to awaken and join the ongoing war. As he finishes speaking, a massive monolith rises from the arena floor. The students erupt with excitement at the opportunity. Itsuki's friend nudges him eagerly, and Itsuki quietly says that the moment has finally arrived. As the line forms, a classmate pulls him forward so they don't fall behind. The pink-haired girl notices the heavy look on Itsuki's face. His eyes glow red as he mutters that the day he's been waiting for is here. One after another, students place their hands on the monolith, but nothing happens to the first candidate. Disappointment spreads when even an elite athlete fails to awaken. More students try, yet the stone remains silent. Anxiety grows as it seems no one from their school will succeed. Then the guard calls the next name, Hikaru Ushi. Tension fills the air since he's a known bully, and everyone fears what might happen if he awakens. The moment he touches the monolith, blue lightning erupts around him. A screen displays his elementalist stats, totaling 12 points. The commander's assistant remarks that the standard should be 5, not 12. Hikaru boasts proudly, convinced he's the standout awakened. Suddenly, someone grabs his shoulder and pulls him away. Hikaru spins around in rage, shouting threats, only for everyone to realize Itsuki has stepped forward. The crowd assumes he's doomed. The blue-haired woman senses the overwhelming emotions radiating from Itsuki. He touches the monolith, focusing on his burning hatred for the disaster beasts. The commander notices that this boy's resolve is far deeper than the rest. Instantly, a colossal blue entity manifests behind Itsuki. An unimaginable surge of energy explodes from the monolith, engulfing him and expanding across the entire arena. Students stare in shock at the massive bloom of power stretching hundreds of feet. His friends erupt in cheers, celebrating wildly. The assistant explains that such a phenomenon only occurs for the rarest class, the Order Breaker. Hikaru watches in disbelief, his confidence shattered. Inside his mind, Itsuki wonders if he's truly awakened. He finds himself seated within a glowing blue lotus made of pure energy. A screen appears, revealing his class in a Z-rank skill named Overmees. But when he checks his stats, every attribute reads 0. Suddenly, his gift, Nirvana, activates, causing his stats to skyrocket to 800. Itsuki smiles, knowing he finally has the power to eradicate the beasts. Back in reality, the blinding light forces everyone to shield their eyes. As it fades, Itsuki's silhouette stands before the monolith. Hikaru is stunned by what he's witnessed. The blue-haired woman can't believe a newcomer possesses such outrageous power. The commander declares that Itsuki is the strongest awakened in recorded history. His status screen shows all attributes at 200, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Hikaru, however, seethes with anger, convinced his glory was stolen. Floating in the air, wrapped in lightning, he insults Itsuki and unleashes his skill, Silver Serpent. Itsuki's system instantly detects the attack and activates Overmiss. As the lightning strikes, the skill analysis completes at an incredible speed. The ground explodes, but Itsuki has vanished. Before anyone can react, he appears behind Hikaru, gripping his head and calmly warning him that he's lucky to be human. Hikaru collapses, powerless. Itsuki notes that the fast analysis was due to the skill being only C rank. Once complete, he acquires Thunder Wave. His friends see him glow again, joking about his glasses saving their eyes. He realizes he always enters that mental space after finishing an analysis. His stats increase by 10 more points. Back outside, Itsuki looks down at the trembling Hikaru, who can't comprehend how his skill was copied. Students remark that Itsuki's lightning is far stronger. His total stats now reach 840. Suddenly, the sky darkens as heavy rain pours down. Something massive approaches from above. A dark monolith crashes toward the school. The commander immediately cancels the ceremony and orders an evacuation, believing the attack is aimed at him. His assistant urges retreat, but the commander refuses, knowing panic would follow. He notices Itsuki standing firm and praises his courage. As everyone flees, Itsuki remains behind. The blue-haired woman wonders why he isn't running. The pillar slams into the arena, filling the air with dust. His friends scream at him to escape, warning that a disaster beast is emerging. Itsuki responds with cold hatred, vowing to exterminate them all. Riku and the girl warn him that he's still a rookie, but Itsuki asks her to trust him, causing her to blush. Riku drags her away, shouting that it's not their fault if he dies. Itsuki grins darkly, facing his first enemy as an awakened. The creature is the same type that killed his parents. A screen displays the skeleton soldier's stats at 295 points. Determined, Itsuki charges forward to test his new skill. They collide with tremendous force. He shouts that he'll never allow anyone to die in front of him again. His lightning-coated punch slams into the skeleton's chest, sending it flying and shattering it apart. The assistant and her partner stare in shock at the single blow. The commander warns that the skeleton possesses two dangerous skills, including bonefire, which incinerates anything it touches. The students cry out as blue flames engulf Itsuki. Nearby, Hikaru laughs hysterically, convinced Itsuki is about to be reduced to ashes. But within the raging flames, the overmuse skill activates, beginning a full analysis of the enemy's ability. The blue-haired woman states that even a level 10 awakened would have been finished by an attack like that. The commander sighs in regret, thinking it would be a tragedy for a genius like him to fall before reaching his full potential. As his body burns, Itsuki's mind drifts back to the moment he watched his mother, engulfed by the same blue fire as she protected him. Still, Commander Mendui believes the boy hasn't revealed his true strength yet and is certain he has something hidden. The skill analysis finally reaches 100%. Calmly, the young man declares that the skeleton's end has arrived. His friend loses hope, convinced he was foolish to believe in a miracle. Suddenly, the glowing blue lotus blooms once more. To everyone's shock, Itsuki steps out from the flames alive, wondering what kind of ability he gained this time. The system screen reveals a new skill called Black Ice Wall, while all his stats are fully restored and boosted. He's immediately pulled back into that familiar mental space inside the massive blue lotus. Floating there, he feels completely healed, his strength refreshed for the fight ahead. His friends erupt in cheers, unable to believe he survived and recovered so completely. The commander's assistant is stunned and questions whether he possesses some kind of healing ability, especially since his class remains unknown. She wonders just how far this recovery power can go, and whether it could heal even worse injuries. Back in the arena, the skeleton soldier roars in rage, unable to comprehend why its flames failed. That's when Itsuki activates his new skill, coating himself in black ice armor and standing fearlessly in the fire. The same blue flames that once burned him now wrap around his body harmlessly, proving his growth. The ice armor merges with the lightning skill he copied earlier, amplifying his power even further. He shapes the ice into a dragon-like form and rushes the skeleton at full speed. In the next instant, he forges an enormous blade of ice and thunder, swinging it down to end the battle. The strike lands cleanly, shattering the skeleton into fragments before it can react. His classmates are left stunned by his speed, which looked closer to teleportation than movement. Even the assistant and the instructor are speechless, questioning whether he's truly a rookie. His armor fades as they comment on how his skill excels in both offense and defense. Riku finally calls out to him, asking if he's alright after everything that happened. Relieved, Riku hugs him, celebrating the victory. Itsuki then asks where Seo is, noticing she's nowhere to be seen. A classmate explains that she was there moments ago, nearly in tears from worry, but suddenly vanished. Itsuki scans the crowd, wondering if she's upset with him for risking his life. The blue-haired woman still can't believe he defeated such a powerful monster. While the commander tells her to handle the aftermath, Riku suggests Seo probably went to the monolith, afraid of falling behind, and tells him not to worry. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls Itsuki's name from behind. Startled, he turns around and finds himself face-to-face with Commander Menuizumi, who stares at him intently. Students whisper from a distance, speculating whether the commander might train him, though most think it's impossible. Feeling the tension, Riku awkwardly excuses himself to search for Seo. Menuizumi steps closer and states seriously that Itsuki is truly special. Confused, Itsuki asks what he means. The commander explains that he can sense a heart overflowing with rage and hatred, and he wants to know why. Itsuki reveals that everything began 10 years ago when his parents were killed by a disaster beast. Painful memories surface of his younger self trembling in terror during that attack. He says he nearly died as well, but an awakened appeared just in time to save him. In her final moments, his mother told him to move forward and walk his own path. The helpless boy could only scream her name, overwhelmed with despair. He blamed himself for their deaths, but that guilt soon twisted into uncontrollable fury. Seeing the beast responsible burned hatred deep into his heart, and with glowing red eyes, he swore revenge. Returning to the present, he finishes his story, tears streaming as he vows to kill every monster. The commander asks why he still cries despite his hatred. Itsuki explains that since that day, only his right eye sheds tears, a reminder of his rage. Menuizumi invites him to become his student and join the Saviors League, an international organization of elite awakened who fight the beasts. He explains that Saviors receive special training and monthly rewards, but they also fight on the front lines, risking their lives. Itsuki says he doesn't care about rewards or resources. What matters to him is something else entirely. Clenching his fist, he declares that he wants to become a savior and fight on the front lines. The commander explains that to qualify, he must place within the top 100 of a tournament, with over 1,000 participants. He mentions the current record of 115,000 points, set 11 years ago by the legendary hero from Taiwan. Itsuki recognizes him as the light of humanity and the strongest awakened. Though Menuizumi says it's foolish to compare them, he believes Itsuki has the potential to stand beside him. With confidence, Itsuki declares that he will surpass the legendary Taiwajin. Hearing this, surprise and interest flash across the commander's eyes. In a flashback, Taiwan reflects that a new successor must rise to win the war. Menuizumi states that the son he had been waiting for has finally appeared. Itsuki is taken to another location and asks about the massive structure before him. The commander explains that the stone monuments act as gateways to the disaster beast's world. If the portals aren't destroyed, the monsters will keep coming no matter how many are killed. The facility exists to isolate these monuments and train awakened fighters. When Itsuki asks if it's a training center, the commander confirms, calling it a stage. He warns that the beasts inside are extremely strong and that the place is infamous as the rookie graveyard. He adds that even Taiwan took 3 minutes and 14 seconds to clear it as a rookie. Reminding Itsuki of his bold claim, the commander challenges him to clear it in 3 minutes. If he succeeds, he'll officially accept him as a student. As they enter, people recognize the commander and whisper about the rookie beside him. Itsuki is surprised by the attention and wonders if the man is really that famous. A screen displays that the beasts inside are level 10, making Itsuki question how dangerous that truly is. A crowd gathers speculating about him, with some dismissing him as just another pretty face. At the reception desk, Itsuki requests entry to the stage. When asked how many participants, he confidently answers that he's going alone, shocking the receptionist. The scene shows him standing by himself as others watch from a distance. The woman grows irritated, thinking he's joking, and warns him that it's an extremely dangerous place where he could be seriously injured. The crowd bursts into laughter, assuming the boy is trying to flirt with the receptionist. Itsuki immediately shuts that down, bluntly saying he has zero interest in her and came only to fight. She doesn't take him seriously and even offers her number, convinced he's pretending to save face. Itsuki shoots her a cold glare and tells her not to make him repeat himself. Intimidated, she finally relents, handing him the entry bracelet while warning that she takes no responsibility for what happens next. People around them mock him, calling him an idiot for attempting a level 10 stage as a level 0 rookie. Some speculate he might have a rare ability, but others insist that level always outweighs talent. Ignoring the chatter, Itsuki heads toward the gate and raises his wrist to scan the bracelet. A screen confirms the entry of Itsuki Tenma into the stage. He cracks his knuckles, reminding himself that he promised to clear everything in under 3 minutes. The moment a digital timer appears, the challenge begins. As soon as the stage activates, Itsuki's eyes glow red and he sprints forward. He quickly realizes the area inside is far larger than expected. Stopping abruptly, he focuses, already sensing enemies nearby. A wooden monster suddenly attacks, but the system shows it's only level 4. Without hesitation, Itsuki forms an ice blade and charges. Smiling confidently, he materializes a massive ice axe and taunts the surrounding creatures. Moments later, an entire swarm of wooden monsters emerges, ready to fight. Outside, the assistant questions why the commander sent him into this stage instead of one designed for rookies. She insists that surpassing Taiwajin is impossible unless someone goes beyond humanity itself. The blue-haired woman recalls how gentle that legendary hero once seemed, yet remembers seeing him obliterate a level 97 beast. His eyes back then were cold and empty, nothing like a human's. She concludes that those eyes belonged not to a man, but to a god. The commander responds that while Itsuki has the potential to rival Taiwajin, he's still unrefined. He adds that if Taiwajin is a god who saves, then Itsuki is a demon fueled by hatred. Inside the stage, Itsuki realizes enemies this week can't even trigger his overmuse skill. As his hatred surges, his red eyes burn brighter. He rushes forward, cutting down every monster in his path. He briefly wonders if that's all there is to a level 10 stage, but knows it can't be that simple. Suddenly, his system activates Overmimus after detecting a regeneration ability. The skill analysis begins at 5%. The wooden monster he sliced in half rapidly regenerates, restoring itself completely. A screen shows its stats rising significantly. Itsuki activates Black Ice Wall, shaping a blade along his arm. He understands that overwhelming damage is necessary to counter regeneration. The analysis climbs to 17% as he continues his relentless assault. With the powerful downward swing of a massive ice sword, he cleaves the creature straight down the middle. Grinning cruelly, he declares it's not over and forces the two halves apart with ice-covered arms. The monster finally shatters into fragments and collapses. Itsuki mutters that maintaining black ice is draining his mana, but to his shock, the creature begins reconstructing itself again. The monster strikes back and he complains that it still refuses to stay down. As the analysis reaches 60%, he realizes each regeneration speeds up the process. Switching tactics, he uses lightning attacks to conserve mana and maintain distance. Time is slipping away, and victory depends on finishing the analysis. With the 3-minute limit approaching, he fuses Ice and Thunder, pushing the analysis to 75%. He deliberately forces regeneration to accelerate the copy process, knowing it's risky. If the copied skill costs mana, he's finished. While dodging attacks, the analysis climbs to 80%. Accepting the danger, he presses on as it rises another 5% mid-attack. Wrapped in lightning and burning determination, Itsuki charges and slams a devastating strike into the monster's head. Completely drained, he struggles to stand. The creature retaliates, impaling him with multiple spikes. His mana is gone, but he smiles, realizing the copy skill doesn't consume mana. With the analysis complete, he calmly declares victory. At 100%, the blue lotus blooms once again. He acquires a new skill, Lotus Burst. The screen details its explosive power and passive effects. All his injuries heal instantly, his mana is restored, and every stat increases by 20 points. Facing the monster, Itsuki clasps his hands and activates the new ability. A colossal explosion shaped like a blazing lotus engulfs the creature, erasing it and everything nearby in a wave of destruction. Satisfied, Itsuki remarks that the skill isn't bad at all. He's surprised to learn that the copy skill restored his mana as well, making future battles easier. As the smoke clears, he notices a glowing green crystal on the ground. Outside, the receptionist panics, noting he's been inside for nearly 3 minutes and considers calling for help. The assistant admits he wouldn't lose, but still believes finishing this fast is impossible. Suddenly, the screen flashes green, announcing a new record. Everyone freezes in shock. The blue-haired woman stares in disbelief as the results display a clear time of 2 minutes and 14 seconds. She shouts that it didn't even take 3 minutes. Itsuki exits the portal and collapses from exhaustion, but the screen confirms his record. The crowd erupts, stunned that a level 0 rookie beat Taiwajin's time by nearly a full minute. Itsuki stands and asks the commander if this means he's officially his student. Smiling confidently, he calls him master for the first time. Menuizumi praises him and accepts him as his disciple, while the assistant notes she hasn't seen the commander this happy in years. Though many are shocked that he became the commander's student, some still doubt his future. The receptionist approaches nervously, apologizing for earlier and offering him a gift. Itsuki accepts, saying she was only concerned for his safety and thanks her sincerely, leaving her red-faced and flustered. The blue-haired woman calls him over, clearly annoyed, warning him not to get arrogant just because he's her father's student. The commander suggests increasing the difficulty, stating that this stage is already too easy for him and that he can attempt an advanced one next. As they leave, he explains that a beast's true strength isn't determined by level alone. From there, he explains that the true deciding factor isn't level, but the species of the creature. Some beasts act purely on instinct, while others possess intelligence equal to or even surpassing humans, making them far more dangerous. The blue-haired woman adds that awakened and beasts are fundamentally similar, except only humans possess classes. Because of this, she informs him that his next destination will be the advanced stages of District 4. With a dark expression, Itsuki wonders whether the beasts he killed felt pain. Sensing the ominous aura around him, the assistant grows uneasy and questions what he's thinking. Nearby, people whisper that the stages in District 4 are controlled by someone named Kinoshida. One man nervously tells his friend to stop talking, warning that overhearing such things could lead to trouble. The scene shifts to Kinoshida himself, the arrogant son of the North District chief. When a guard asks when he plans to leave, smugly replies that the place belongs to him. and he'll go whenever he feels like it. With a condescending smile, he claims waiting in line is for commoners, not someone of his status. Back with Itsuki, he opens the gift from the receptionist and finds a glowing white stone inside. Later, while sitting with the commander and the assistant, he mentions that he recognizes it. Mendui asks if he's familiar with karma stones as Itsuki holds it up. He recalls the large green crystal dropped by the beast earlier and notes the difference in color. The assistant is shocked to hear he found an intermediate karma stone in a rookie stage. The blue-haired woman reminds them that Itsuki is still a rookie and explains that karma stones are experience crystals. When a beast is defeated, it releases energy that's normally absorbed to level up. These stones store that energy for later use. However, she finds it strange that such a stone would naturally form in a low-level stage. Commander Menuizumi suggests the cause is Itsuki's gift. Both Itsuki and the assistant are confused by this explanation. He clarifies that normally Itsuki would have absorbed the experience himself, but he didn't level up. Instead, the energy from the first monster was unintentionally shared with everyone present, meaning the commander and the blue-haired woman unknowingly took part of it. Since there was no one else inside the stage later, the remaining energy condensed into a karma stone. The assistant then asks how Itsuki's stats increase if he can't level up normally. The commander immediately shuts her down, stating that an awakened's gift is classified. He tells Itsuki to use the stone however he wants and mentions he'll be leaving for a conference. Before departing, he gives him 4 instructions: keep everything secret, don't discuss his gift, and clear 6 stages. Itsuki accepts confidently, promising to follow his master's orders. In District 4, 2 awakened argue with security guards, complaining that a stage has been reserved by the Kinoshida family. One angrily states that wealth doesn't grant the right to do whatever they want and insists on entering, since the rich kid hasn't even arrived. He threatens to report the situation to the awakened guild. Suddenly, a dark figure with glowing red eyes appears behind them. One of the men tries to attack but is instantly struck by a powerful punch and sent flying. The muscular figure charges forward and clashes fists with an earth-based attack. The Awakened's technique shatters instantly. Shocked, he can't believe his B-rank skill was completely ineffective. The brute reveals a metallic face with red glowing eyes and mocks him, saying it didn't even tickle. Terrified, the other Awakened wonders if he's facing a monster, as his technique was supposed to pierce anything. With a frightening glare, the brute grabs him by the collar. Without mercy, he attacks again, leaving the young man defenseless. The crowd recognizes the attacker as Tayaru Oga, one of Ri's pillars and a level 12 metal elementalist. Tayaru warns everyone that no one enters without permission and threatens the same fate to anyone who resists. He slams one man to the ground and lifts the other by the neck as a warning. A man in a suit tells Tayaru not to go too far, reminding him that people are watching and that his master might be displeased. Tayaru ignores him and throws the man aside, showing no concern for the consequences. At that moment, Itsuki and the blue-haired woman arrive to help the injured. The crowd murmurs that a level 0 rookie is getting himself killed by interfering. Someone recognizes the woman beside him. Tayaru roars that no one passes without permission and tells Itsuki to leave if he values his life. Itsuki realizes that defeating Tayaru is the only way forward. The blue-haired woman offers to call the administrator, but Itsuki stops her, recalling his master's words about fighting for what he believes in. He asks her to tend to the injured while he handles the brute. The system displays Itsuki's stats. Tayaru scoffs, questioning why a level 0 dares challenge him, yet he feels an unsettling pressure. Itsuki's total points appear as 605. Despite the level gap, Tayaru grows tense, focusing on the boy to understand his confidence. In the reflection of his eye, he sees Itsuki charging at an unbelievable speed. Before he can react, Itsuki's punch slams into Tayaru's metallic face. The crowd gasps, some saying they couldn't even follow his movement at level 8. The impact cracks Tayaru's metal defense. Holding his face, Tayaru praises Itsuki's speed but claims his attack lacks power, retaliating with a heavy kick that sends Itsuki flying. Realizing he needs more speed, Itsuki prepares to use Thunder Wave. His status screen appears, Overmoose activates, and the analysis of Tayaru's metallization begins at 1%. Surprised that the skill is strong enough to trigger copying, Itsuki decides to fight seriously. He deduces that he must target exposed flesh. As the analysis reaches 5%, Itsuki plants his feet and prepares to charge again. Tayaru mocks him, saying he lacks both speed and strength, readying another attack. Exploiting the opening, Itsuki activates Thunder Wave, boosting his speed even further. Tayaru is startled to see lightning used against him. Itsuki rushes in, declaring he won't give him time to fully metalize. A flurry of rapid strikes follows, pushing the analysis from 25 to 66% in seconds. The crowd is stunned, questioning how a level 0 is using skills from another class. Some begin to believe he might actually defeat Tayaru. Growing desperate, Tayaru realizes he's being overwhelmed. Unable to issue commands, he shouts at his men to stop watching and help. Knowing he's at his limit, he clenches his teeth and unleashes his final move. With a roar, Tayaru releases an immense surge of energy, tearing his shirt apart as he fully metallizes his body. At the same time, the analysis jumps to 88%. He thanks our hero for pushing him into a corner. The brute explains that once his body fully metallizes, his defense receives a massive bonus, pushing it beyond 500 points. He admits he originally planned to slice the young man in half, but out of appreciation, he promises a quick and painless death instead. The crowd is stunned, unable to believe such an absurd defense value. They were convinced the level 0 rookie had already secured victory. Itsuki calmly analyzes the situation and concludes that this transformation must consume an enormous amount of mana. With defense that high, Tayaru's mana reserves can't be limitless. Tayaru laughs at the idea, but internally he's shocked by the boy's sharp intuition. He wonders how a level 0 could read the situation so accurately. Itsuki states that there's no need to drain his mana because he'll finish the fight immediately. At that moment, the analysis finally reaches 100%. The blue-haired woman notices the familiar blue lotus blooming once more and realizes Itsuki is growing stronger again. The crowd doesn't understand the skill being activated. Since it doesn't look like an attack, they question how he plans to win. Once the analysis completes, Itsuki acquires a new skill called Piercing Sphere. However, its speed is only 1 meter per second. With unwavering resolve, Itsuki declares he'll shatter Tayaru's pride by crushing his defense. The new skill boosts his stats by another 10 points, heals his injuries, and draws him briefly into the blue lotus space. He challenges Tayaru to dodge the upcoming attack and activates Piercing Sphere with a confident grin. The crowd gasps in disbelief, unable to comprehend how a level 0 awakened could threaten a level 12 opponent. Many notice something unsettling in Itsuki's eyes. A small sphere of dark purple energy forms in front of him, glowing with an eerie power. Slowly, it begins drifting forward. The attack is painfully slow and predictable. Laughter spreads through the crowd as they mock the skill, calling it nothing more than a tiny floating ball. Tayaru scoffs as well, telling Itsuki not to embarrass himself. He stares at the sphere with a mocking smile, wondering if this pitiful attack is supposed to be the boy's trump card. He warns Itsuki that his end will be humiliating, but then the sphere strikes him directly in the chest. Instantly, Tayaru's expression twists in shock and agony. He can't understand how the attack pierced his defense. The small sphere passes cleanly through his metal body as if it weren't there at all. His absolute defense is completely breached. Itsuki calmly remarks that he spared Tayaru's right arm only because he's human. If he were a beast, he would have gone straight for the neck. Turning toward the men in suits, Itsuki coldly orders them to take the injured man to the hospital. He then snaps, telling everyone to get out of his sight. His patience has run dry. Terrified, the henchmen hurriedly lift their fallen leader and flee the area. The blue-haired woman and the surrounding crowd erupt into cheers, stunned by the unexpected outcome. The two men Itsuki saved approach him, suggesting they form a team. They claim the three of them together could clear the stage easily, especially since one of them is a healer who could restore mana and allow repeated use of the sphere. Itsuki considers the idea briefly, noting that high defense monsters are ideal for increasing the sphere's speed. Even so, when the two press him for an answer, he firmly declines. With a serious expression, he states that he'll enter the challenge alone. The crowd is shocked, unable to believe he plans to face an advanced level 15 stage solo. The blue-haired woman warns him that he's pushing his luck. One of the men shrugs, says goodbye, and leaves to find another team. The assistant cautions Itsuki about the monster's high defense and worries whether his mana will last. He reassures her calmly. She blushes, denies being worried, and says she'll take care of the injured while he does what he wants. Before parting, she warns him that stone beasts move in groups and reminds him to manage his mana carefully. Itsuki nods and walks toward the gate. The system confirms the entry of awakened Tenma. Inside the stage, he surveys the environment and realizes there are far more enemies than expected. The battlefield is barren and rocky. Several stone creatures with glowing eyes watch him from afar. The system displays the stats of a stone statue with a total of 460 points and an ability that converts magic into defense. Itsuki prepares to test his new skill. Curious whether these monsters will trigger the sphere's passive effect, he activates Piercing Sphere, purple and blue energy condensing in his hand. He launches the orb as the stone creature charges forward, unaware of the danger. The sphere punches straight through the monster's chest, leaving a massive hole. The system confirms the defeat of the level 9 stone statue. His theory is proven correct as the sphere's speed increases by 100%. Moments later, 3 more stone creatures appear, far more aggressive than the first. Itsuki realizes that slow enemies are perfect targets. Wrapping himself in lightning, he engages them. After defeating several, he notices each shot consumes 50 mana. With his current reserves, he only has 2 attacks left. Seeing 2 monsters approaching while the boss remains unseen, he decides to save his power. He needs to eliminate multiple enemies with a single strike. Concentrating deeply, he fires the sphere into the ground, creating a massive cloud of dust and debris. As the monsters are distracted, he leaps into the air, gaining the advantage from above. With a sinister smile and glowing red eyes, he gathers all his remaining energy and hurls the sphere downward with full force. The purple energy flares brilliantly as it tears through both monsters at once. The system confirms 2 eliminations and the sphere's speed increases again. Completely drained, Itsuki collapses to the ground. Panting, he mutters that a recovery skill would be nice. Even so, he notes that he can now hit targets moving at 5 meters per second. His skill has grown significantly. The system displays the piercing sphere details, revealing its speed bonus can reach up to 500%. Suddenly, the ground trembles violently. A massive shadow looms over him as the stage boss emerges with a deafening roar. Dust fills the air as the stone giant activates a B-rank skill called Gigantification, increasing its size enormously. The screen reveals the monster is level 15, with a total of 777 points. Facing the threat, Itsuki activates Thunderwave, boosting his agility by 50%. He questions whether Piercing Sphere can penetrate such a powerful foe. Deciding his best chance is a headshot, he leaps high, searching for an opening, but he realizes the sphere may be too small to deal fatal damage. The giant seizes the moment and swings its massive arm toward him. Mid-air, Itsuki knows he can't dodge. With no other choice, he activates Black Ice Wall to shield himself. The impact shatters the ice instantly and sends him crashing into a wall. Gritting his teeth, Itsuki admits the monster is far stronger than he anticipated. With that, his Overmoose skill activates the moment it detects Gigantification, and a faint smile appears on his face, knowing this will work in his favor. Far away, Rocky Kinoshida lounges inside his mansion when one of his subordinates receives a call and freezes in shock. Irritated by the noise, the rich heir snaps at him to stay quiet, saying he hates loud voices. The man hurriedly apologizes, prompting Rocky to ask what could possibly warrant such a reaction. The subordinate reveals that Tayaru Oga was defeated, and someone forcibly entered the stage reserved for the Kinoshida family. Ragi's expression darkens as he questions whether an awakened above level 30 was responsible. The man explains that high-level awakened are occupied elsewhere, and that only rookies were present, making it nearly impossible for one of them to defeat Tayaru. Ragi demands more details, then abruptly cuts him off, stating that details don't matter. If they leave immediately, they'll arrive in time. Losing patience, he orders the man to move at once without making him repeat himself. Terrified, the subordinate complies. Ragi removes his coat, vowing to make whoever disgraced the Kinoshida family pay dearly. Back at the stage, the analysis reaches completion. Itsuki appears once again within the Blue Lotus. The copied skill is complete while the giant stone monster continues to glare at him. Checking the results, Itsuki notices that Piercing Sphere has evolved to level 2. The screen displays its new stats, a speed of 7 meters per second and adjustable size. The passive bonus has doubled, and the sphere's size can now be altered using mana. Excited, he decides to test the upgraded skill immediately. The system confirms Piercing Sphere level 2 and an additional 20 stat points, though his total mana drops significantly. Standing atop the massive golem, Itsuki pours every last bit of mana into forming the largest piercing sphere possible. A colossal purple-black orb crashes down with overwhelming force, piercing the stone giant cleanly from head to toe. Exhausted and flat on the ground, Itsuki chuckles, wondering if he went too far now that his mana is completely drained. The system confirms the golem's defeat along with a 200% increase in sphere speed. Holding a green karma stone, he calculates that after 2 more activations, the sphere would move as fast as a car. He realizes he had overlooked the passive effects earlier, which turned out to be extremely useful. Smiling, he recalls that Lotus Burst enhances the range of all his skills. The screen explains that its range increases by 1% with every kill, and he imagines how terrifying that could become. Outside, the display announces the stage was cleared in 3 minutes and 1 second. The crowd is stunned, as even a 5-person group usually takes 10 minutes, and he's now surpassed Taiwajin's record. When Itsuki exits, people are baffled that he's still level 0 and completely unharmed. The blue-haired assistant observes him closely, noting he cleared another stage flawlessly and broke a record again. She comments on how fast he was, staring at him in disbelief. Itsuki casually explains that the monster was weak against piercing attacks, then points to a glowing butterfly and asks what it is. The woman introduces herself as a Shikigami user and explains that the butterfly is her jade familiar. Itsuki is amazed, saying it's his first time seeing a Shikigami and calling it beautiful. He then asks about the different awakened classes, shocking her with his lack of basic knowledge. She explains that there are 4 main categories and that he's already encountered 3. The first is elementalists, who control one of 7 elements and are the most common and combat-oriented. She uses his classmate as an example, and mentions that Tayaru was also a metal elementalist. The second class is the Shikigami user, who summons a familiar bound only to them since birth, complete with its own stats. After finishing her explanation, she asks if he has questions. Itsuki bluntly points out that her Shikigami seems stronger than she is and questions whether she's really a senior. Flustered and irritated by his bluntness, she explains that Shikigami also absorb experience, which is why they're often stronger than their masters. Hearing this, Itsuki silently thinks that targeting the user directly would be easier in combat. Sensing his dark aura again, the woman grows uneasy and wonders what's wrong with him. Ignoring her concern, Itsuki asks about the remaining class. She signals him to be quiet, smiling mischievously and saying that's his punishment for not sharing anything about himself. He accepts it calmly. She then informs him that the student he saved is fine and asks about his next move. Itsuki replies that he plans to clear the stage again, only to be told there's a 2-day cooldown. Surprised, he decides instead to focus on leveling Lotus Burst. He asks if there's a stage with a massive number of monsters suitable for training. Smiling, the assistant says she knows the perfect place, though she warns it'll be tough without area of effective attacks. Itsuki smiles confidently, confirming he'll go, realizing she doesn't know about Lotus Burst. The destination is the Locust Desert, home to over 1,000 low-level monsters that attack in swarms. She insists it's dangerous, but he reassures her. The crowd murmurs that he's insane, with someone mentioning that Kinoshida will surely appear. Meanwhile, Ri arrives at the stage only to find his target gone. His subordinate reports that the intruder cleared the area in just 30 minutes. Furious, Ri orders a tracker to be summoned to follow the monotrail, screaming that he wants the culprit alive so he can make him suffer. Elsewhere, an assassin hides and complains that he never expected the rich heir to have such terrifying subordinates. Relieved to have escaped, he believes his skill saved his life. As he hides in an alley, convinced he's safe, a massive wolf with glowing red eyes suddenly appears and attacks, biting him before he can react. From a nearby rooftop, the tracker Charles watches calmly alongside his giant wolf. The assassin panics, unable to understand how he was found so quickly. Smiling, Charles explains that his familiar Mort has an exceptional sense of smell and can detect the scent of death clinging to him. The assassin begs for mercy through tears, but Charles coldly replies that sparing him would anger Mr. Kinessa. With red eyes gleaming, he commands Mort to enjoy the meal. The giant wolf lunges forward, ending the man's life on the spot. Soon after, Charles remarks that his familiar has finally leveled up after such a long time. A screen displays the updated stats of the Hound of Mort, now level 16 and equipped with new abilities. At that moment, Charles answers a call and calmly states that the job has been completed. Shortly after, he receives another call informing him that Oga has been critically injured. He wonders aloud if someone managed to discover the brute's weakness. Smiling faintly, he turns to his massive wolf and says that a new piece of prey has revealed itself. Far away, Itsuki and the blue-haired woman arrive at a place known as the Locust Desert. He surveys the wheat-like fields and questions whether there are really that many locusts here. The assistant explains that beasts always choose environments they favor and that predicting such behavior is a basic survival skill. She adds that the stage is considered so dangerous it's under review for closure, which explains the absence of a receptionist. Itsuki questions this, noting the stage is only level 13. But she responds that the rules here are different. She explains that the locust beasts are extremely aggressive and appear in overwhelming numbers. Even a single second of carelessness could result in being completely surrounded and devoured alive. A bleached skeleton picked clean to the bone is shown as proof of the danger. Instead of backing down, Itsuki smiles and says that's exactly what he was looking for. The woman wonders if he wants to reconsider, but he confidently replies that he's not reckless enough to become insect food. As she watches him enter the portal, she notes his unwavering confidence. She reassures herself that she warned him thoroughly, and that whatever happens next isn't her responsibility. Suddenly, she remembers that locusts continue spawning endlessly until the boss is defeated. Realizing the danger, she prepares to rush in and warn him. With the determination in her eyes, she steps forward, only to be stopped by Charles and his massive wolf, blocking her path. With glowing red eyes and a sinister smile, Charles says he's searching for someone, instantly turning the atmosphere tense. Inside the stage, Itsuki looks around and comments that the place is a complete disaster. Smiling, he claps his hands and calls for pest extermination. Standing alone in the desolate field, a lone scarecrow emphasizes how eerie and abandoned the area feels. The system reveals the presence of level 1 and level 2 locusts, and Itsuki notes their individual levels are low. Moments later, a massive swarm fills the sky and he realizes the sheer number is overwhelming. With a sharp grin, he activates Lotus Burst, declaring the stage perfect for training. Covering himself in ice armor, he explains his plan aloud. Let them gather, then wipe them out in one strike. The swarm completely surrounds him and he shouts that the time to attack has arrived. Instantly, Lotus Burst detonates, releasing a blinding explosion at the center of the horde. Countless locusts are annihilated as the system confirms the kills and an increase in range. Amid the devastation, Itsuki remains standing as notifications flood his screen. The power of the skill is overwhelming. The display shows Lotus Burst at level 2 with a diameter of 10.5 meters and a total range increase of 110%. He calculates that with just 10% of his mana, he can fire roughly 10 bursts and boost the range by nearly 1000%. His mana reads 280 out of 252, and he complains about the annoying stage cooldown mechanics. Noticing the absence of a stage clear notification, he senses something is wrong. Suddenly, his system detects a C-rank skill, triggering Overmoose analysis at 1%. Startled, Itsuki wonders if enemies are still alive. Almost immediately, another massive swarm of locusts floods in from every direction. Protected by his ice armor, he realizes his mistake. The detected skill must belong to the stage boss. The problem is he can't locate the boss, but he can still expand his range. Deciding to force it out, he continues wiping out the locusts. Another explosion erupts, doubling his range to 220%. Shocked, he notes the skill's diameter has expanded to 16 meters, producing devastating results. Despite erasing countless swarms, the boss still refuses to appear. The truth is revealed as locusts hatch endlessly from underground eggs. Watching them re-emerge, Itsuki realizes the assistant was right about infinite respawning. As the creatures keep multiplying, the analysis of the boss's skill reaches 27%. His status screen shows enough mana for 9 more bursts, and he prepares himself. With flames dancing around his hands, he shouts that it doesn't matter how many times they return. Joining his hands while encased in ice armor, he vows to wipe them all out. He unleashes another powerful explosion, and the system confirms more eliminations. Notifications continue stacking as he fires the skill repeatedly, 7 times in rapid succession. The display now shows a massive diameter of 54.5 meters with a 990% bonus. At this point, he realizes he has mana left for only one final attack, yet the locusts continue endlessly. Completely surrounded, he shouts that the enemies never stop, and desperation sets in. The boss still hasn't appeared, and he briefly considers retreating to finish the analysis. He immediately rejects the thought, declaring that retreat would make him a loser, and he refuses to give up. With glowing red eyes, he prepares his last Lotus Burst, pouring every remaining ounce of strength into it. After unleashing the attack, he collapses to his knees, exhausted. Even after all that destruction, the number of locusts hasn't decreased. The analysis reaches 91%, and he finally notices that all enemies after the first were only level 1. At last, the truth clicks. The boss's ability is infinite reproduction. A massive Locust Queen emerges. The system reveals her stats. Level 13, capable of controlling up to 110 locusts simultaneously. Itsuki knows he must eliminate the source, but his mana is depleted and the analysis isn't complete yet. Suddenly, a blue sphere materializes as the analysis reaches 100%, saving him at the last second. He acquires Mana Sense, a skill that restores 10% of his mana for every detected enemy. Overjoyed, Itsuki realizes the skill has a range exceeding 1,000 meters and continuously restores mana. With a wicked grin, he notes that he could farm locusts forever, but decides to end it quickly since the blue-haired woman is waiting outside. The system confirms 10 additional stat points across the board, along with full restoration of health and mana. His total stats now reach 1,120. Activating Mana Sense, he releases a wave of blue energy that spreads across the battlefield. The pulse expands until it locates the Locust Queen hidden underground. With blue glowing eyes and a grin, Itsuki announces that he's finally found her. Confidently preparing his final assault, he mocks her for hiding behind her offspring and readies his piercing sphere. Combining it with his passive effects, he fires it at full power. The screen shows a range of 120 meters as the orb tears through the ground at incredible speed. The Locust Queen is struck head-on and launched violently. In the next instant, Itsuki appears behind her, cloaked in lightning and ice armor. Smiling coldly, he declares checkmate. With a swift motion, he slices her apart with his ice blade, ending the battle without giving her any chance to resist. Watching the remaining locusts scatter, he realizes that without their queen, they've fallen into complete disorder. Flames flickering around his hand, he says there's no need to panic since he'll send them off to reunite with their mother. He notes that the range of his abilities has surpassed 1,210%, while the orb's reach now extends to 131 meters. The system confirms that Lotus Burst diameter has grown to 65.5 meters and that the orb's range has increased once again. Picking up the dropped items, Itsuki comments that the harvest was impressive and says he'll return later to strengthen his passive even further. As he exits, a new record is set at 17 minutes and 7 seconds. He figures the assistant must be worried by now. Spotting her ahead, he already imagines getting scolded and smiles, finding her quirky concern endearing. He's about to apologize when he notices her collapsed on the ground with a pair of red eyes glaring at him from the shadows. Charles has her by the neck, coldly stating that if she cleared the stage alone, then she must be the person Reggie is searching for. He adds that he tried to extract information from her, but even while injured, she refused to speak. At that moment, Itsuki steps forward and orders him to remove his filthy hands from her, warning that he'll leave him barely standing in return. The man in the hat laughs mockingly, telling the boy not to get arrogant just because he's a level 0 rookie. Without hesitation, Itsuki lunges forward cloaked in lightning. Charles is stunned by the boy's unbelievable speed and senses danger closing in, but Mort, the massive wolf, leaps in front and blocks the punch with its head to shield its master. The system identifies a B-rank Shikigami, triggering over Mimas. As the analysis begins, Itsuki realizes the wolf is a Shikigami and that the man in the hat is its user. Charles compliments Itsuki's speed and technique, finally understanding how Oga was defeated without even using his armor. He then tightens his grip on the blue-haired girl, using her as a shield, claiming Mort is his hostage. Itsuki shouts Aja's name while holding back the wolf as the analysis continues to rise. Mort opens its massive jaws and snaps at Itsuki's arm with crushing force. Charles taunts him, boasting that Mort's bite can shatter any defense under 300 points. His smug expression turns to shock as Itsuki blocks the attack with an ice-coated arm and forms a piercing sphere. The sphere detonates inside the wolf's mouth, blasting it away with tremendous force. Itsuki remarks that without the Shikigami, the user is helpless. The analysis reaches 77%. Charles is shaken, wondering if the boy truly understands he's still just a rookie. He explains that Mort possesses a response skill that drastically shortens its revival time. As the wolf regenerates, Charles orders it to turn Itsuki into dog food. Activating Mana Sense, Itsuki releases a wave of energy and effortlessly dodges the renewed attack, noting that keeping the skill active was the right decision. The analysis continues climbing. He knows it's nearly complete, but worries that summoning the Blue Lotus might alert his enemy. Meanwhile, Charles grows desperate, realizing the boy outclasses him in speed, power, and even detection. He tightens his grip on Aja and threatens to kill her if Itsuki resists any longer. Trying to finish the analysis without triggering the Lotus, Itsuki presses on. The analysis completes, granting him the Shikigami Eater skill, which allows control over summoned familiars. His stats rise by 20 points, though the healing effect fails due to skipping the Lotus phase. He notes the missing recovery but doesn't care as he's already stable. Mort charges again and Itsuki realizes the new skill allows him to seize control of Shikigami. With glowing red eyes, he places his hand on the wolf's head and declares he's claiming it. Blue light engulfs Mort as it begins transforming. Using the opening, Itsuki kicks Charles hard, sending him flying. Enraged, Charles curses the wolf, calling it useless despite all the experience he invested in it. He grabs Aja tighter and threatens to kill her if Itsuki doesn't stop. With her remaining strength, Aja tells Itsuki not to worry about her and to keep fighting. Itsuki raises his hands in surrender, telling Charles not to touch her. Charles smirks, saying her suffering could have been avoided if the boy had cooperated earlier. Itsuki calmly asks why he's being targeted since he doesn't recall provoking him. Charles introduces himself and reveals he was sent by Kinoshida to capture him. Hearing the name, Itsuki realizes he'll need to pay the rich kid a visit. Charles warns him that Mort will rip his legs off if he uses ice again and orders the wolf to do just that. At the same time, Itsuki commands Mort to prove it deserves to be his Shikigami. The wolf turns on its former master, biting him as a lotus symbol glows on its forehead. In a flash, Itsuki rescues Aja, catching her in his arms. Charles screams in agony, unable to comprehend why his own familiar betrayed him. Itsuki praises Mort, calling it a good boy, then vows to make Charles suffer 100-fold for what he did. Panicking, Charles offers to lure Ri out in exchange for his life. Itsuki's eyes glow red as he coldly says it's an interesting offer. Seeing an opening, Charles launches a desperate counterattack, forming a massive ice spike and hurling it, while shouting for Itsuki to die. Unfazed, Itsuki calmly tells him to perish instead, stating that dealing with Ri is his responsibility. He orders Mort to make Charles feel exactly what Aja felt. Charles begs for mercy, crying as the giant wolf charges. He desperately reminds Mort that he was once its master, but the wolf ignores him, opening its jaws and devouring him without hesitation. As silence falls, Itsuki notes that someone has been watching him since he left the stage. With a stern gaze, he challenges them to reveal themselves. The wheat field stretches wide behind him, the stage structure looming in the distance. A hooded figure emerges from the crops, admitting he's been spotted. Itsuki eyes him suspiciously and asks if he's associated with the man in the hat. The blonde youth panics and denies it, insisting he's not an enemy and begging to be heard. Uninterested, Itsuki turns away and tells Mort to follow him once it's finished eating. The hooded man thinks that if Itsuki can control a ferocious beast, maybe he can help him. He introduces himself as Iberia and recognizes Itsuki as the one who defeated Tayaru Oga. He offers creation stones and weapons as payment for help, convinced such rewards would be irresistible. But he recalls his father's words: a true reward must matter, like water in the desert, a blade for the avenger, or medicine for the wounded. With a confident smile, Iberia says he finally understands what the protagonist truly needs. He warns that if they continue walking slowly with the injured girl, she may not survive the trip to the hospital. Then, the blonde young man reveals he has a healing item and pulls out a glowing scroll. As Itsuki starts to walk away, Iberia confidently calls out that he can save the assistant using this item. Hearing that, Itsuki stops and turns back with surprise, asking if he's serious. Iberia confirms that the healing won't be instant, but it will definitely keep her alive. Itsuki asks if the item works through clothing, and Iberia explains that it's a rare artifact. Realizing Itsuki is a rookie, he adds that it's normal for him not to know much about artifacts yet. He explains that ordinary weapons are ineffective against beasts, which is why artisans craft special equipment. He goes on to explain that artifacts are divided into 4 categories: common, rare, epic, and unique. Common artifacts are basic weapons like longswords that can harm beasts and awakened alike. Rare and epic artifacts enhance stats and provide useful special effects. Unique artifacts sit at the very top, granting enormous bonuses and abilities that can completely change battles. Iberia adds that while artisans themselves aren't powerful fighters, they're highly respected for creating these items. Itsuki realizes that Iberia's father must be an artisan, but the blonde man smugly reveals that his father ranks among the top 10. With pride, he says his father has already created 3 of the 10 known unique artifacts, earning him the title of the Artisan King of the North. However, Iberia quickly grows annoyed when he notices Itsuki completely ignoring his story and turning away without interest. Itsuki bends down and picks up the crossbow Charles dropped earlier. Iberia is shocked that he's so unfazed, while Itsuki silently considers how the weapon might be used. Iberia explains that the crossbow is a rare artifact capable of generating its own ammunition. Suddenly, the weapon vanishes, and Iberia explains that soul-bound artifacts can be stored at will. Thanking him for the healing item, Itsuki says his next objective is to find Kinoshida. Hearing the name, Iberia is startled and says confronting him takes serious courage. He then reveals that if the target is they share the same goal. Itsuki asks why, and Iberia proposes forming a team for the Savior's national tournament preliminaries. He explains that the preliminaries are held by continent, and the northern venue takes place in District 4. As the district chief's son, is desperate to reach the main event to avoid embarrassing his family. That's why he's monopolizing stages to level up faster. When Itsuki asks why Iberia chose him, the blonde replies that his instincts tell him they'll succeed together. Iberia then shares his past. Growing up, he watched his father craft artifacts, admiring every completed piece as a work of art. That admiration pushed him to dream of becoming an awakened and fighting disaster beasts. But when he finally awakened and asked his father for an artifact, he was told he wasn't ready. After persistent pleading, his father agreed to give him one, only if he passed the preliminaries. With a determined look, Iberia declares that he must pass no matter what. Itsuki asks why he didn't team up with a high-level awakened instead, given his father's reputation. Iberia replies that his father warned him to succeed on his own merits, and never rely on the family name. On top of that, his intel revealed that most strong awakened had already been recruited by Kinoshida. When Iberia learned someone defeated Tayaru and shattered records, he tracked Itsuki down. Itsuki agrees to the partnership but says he'll take Aja to the hospital first. Iberia interrupts and starts suggesting team names, making Itsuki think he talks even more than Riku. As he thinks of his friends, he wonders if Riku and Seo will also join the preliminaries. Elsewhere, Riku is shown undergoing intense training in preparation for the preliminaries. Seo asks if he's caught a cold, and he jokingly replies that maybe Itsuki is talking about him. Seo wonders how long it's been since the attack and worries about Itsuki since they haven't seen him. Riku calls her strange and asks why she didn't visit him if she was so concerned, causing her to blush. Annoyed, she suddenly launches a water attack at him. Startled, he complains about the cheap shot, but she says it's his fault for leaving an opening during training. A muscular man appears and orders them to stop fooling around, announcing that the preliminaries are about to begin. Meanwhile, Kinoshida examines 3 creation stones inside a silver briefcase. Annoyed that one of his subordinates is late, he suspects something went wrong. In frustration, he crushes one of the stones, dismissing it as useless junk as experience flows into him. He decides to forget about the missing man and focus on the preliminaries, stating that failure would earn him solitary confinement from his father. Seo becomes excited about fighting other Awakened as her water elementalist status is revealed. A henchman informs Ri that they've secured the support of 887 Awakened. Ri praises him, calling him the only reliable person by his side at the moment. He then uses the final creation stone, leveling up as lightning covers his body. His new level 12 status and combat stats are revealed. Elsewhere, Itsuki appears surrounded by a blue aura, his expression firm and resolute. In a hospital room, he apologizes to the commander for Aja's condition. Izumi asks how they should proceed and offers to eliminate Ri entirely, but Itsuki immediately refuses, stating firmly that he'll handle it himself. The commander accepts his decision and tells him to report back later. Iberia is shocked to learn that Izumi is Itsuki's master and immediately asks for an autograph. Itsuki then announces that he'll enter the preliminaries with Iberia and asks about Aja's condition. She's reported to be fine thanks to the jade butterfly and Iberia's rare artifact. Izumi recognizes the item and realizes Iberia is the son of the renowned artisan Aiden. Startled, Iberia tries to act dignified but messes up and claims he's Aiden's father instead of his son. Everyone falls silent as Izumi corrects him. Completely embarrassed, Iberia fixes his mistake and admits Aiden is indeed his father. Izumi thanks him for saving his daughter and says he'll visit Aiden after the tournament. He then tells both young men to prepare, informing them that he and Aya will be watching the preliminaries the next day. Confidently, the new duo promises they'll pass. Aja remarks that her father always liked Aiden, often bringing her along to meetings. Izumi explains that due to childhood trauma, Itsuki has a strong self-destructive tendency, which significantly weakens when there's someone he wants to protect. That's why he placed his daughter beside him, to become his friend and the person he'd protect above all else. He then reveals that the school attack wasn't an accident but a planned event. With traitors increasing and humanity's future looking grim, he states with conviction that Itsuki will become the light that guides humanity forward. The scene shifts to the Northern District 4 where the tournament preliminaries are held. Itsuki and Iberia arrive to see the participant count jump from 3,000 to 5,000. Ri is irritated, muttering that his father increased the variables again. Seo and Riku notice Ri's allies wearing red ribbons for identification. Suddenly, a man named Soryu Fuji steps forward to explain the rules of the preliminaries. He explains that the arena is split into 2 separate zones and all participants will be placed at different starting points. The announcer then reveals that the first phase is a race toward the inner core of the arena. The moment someone reaches it, their ranking is locked in, and only the top 500 competitors will advance. Each participant is allowed to carry 2 tools. Iberia taps our hero's arm to get his attention, while Riku notices the function of the bracelet. Seo remarks that eliminating thousands in the first round alone is absolutely ruthless. At that moment, Kinoshida arrives with his group and arrogantly orders everyone not to run ahead of him. Iberia instantly recognizes the awakened bot and quietly plans a surprise attack once their guard drops. However, Itsuki boldly walks straight toward them. The henchmen quickly notice he isn't wearing a red ribbon. Iberia is stunned by his partner's reckless behavior. The announcer gives the signal and the first phase officially begins as everyone starts running. Soryu comments that it's encouraging to see so many young people aiming to join the alliance, but reminds everyone that numbers alone mean nothing. Shu Heian adds that in past years, several participants were already above level 15. The announcer recalls that in his year, only 2 competitors stood out, one of them being Jin Taiwa. Shu sighs, saying it's boring without a rookie like Taiwa Jin, and hopes another genius appears. The announcer replies that such prodigies only show up once every century. However, Shu mentions hearing rumors about a certain student. Commander Mendui, who has been listening quietly, confirms that the rumor is true. Shu gets excited and asks if the student is present, claiming such talent must be extraordinary. Soryu immediately begins scanning the participant data. He spots Riku but dismisses him due to his mediocre grade 2 gift. He then passes over Seo, assuming she's just a support type. Soon after, he finds a girl named Hana at level 16, which is extremely rare for a rookie. Soryu believes he's found the prodigy, but Izumi doesn't agree. Shu then asks if there are any level 0 participants, noting there's always at least one interesting case. Back in the arena, Ri and his henchmen laugh mockingly at Itsuki, calling him a lost kid. Calm and unfazed, Itsuki activates one of his artifacts and stares straight at the rich kid with glowing eyes. Ri is caught off guard by the boy's attitude and smirks as he asks who he even is. Itsuki coldly replies that Ri has been looking for him. Ri can't believe a level 0 nobody defeated Oga and assumes someone sent the boy to provoke him. Enraged, he orders his men to seize Itsuki, promising they'll make him regret it. Lightning crackles around Ri as he declares he has no time to waste on weaklings. His henchmen surround Itsuki and Iberia, preparing for a fight. One of them sneers, saying they can beg if they want mercy. Iberia knows he can handle one opponent, but facing 4 is impossible for Itsuki. He prepares to activate an artifact, but Itsuki stops him. The henchman in front scoffs, mocking the fact that their first opponent is a level 0 nobody. Itsuki steps forward and firmly tells him to move aside. The man freezes, shocked by the audacity, then bursts into laughter along with the others. One henchman, previously beaten by Itsuki, admits he likes the kid's attitude and jokes about saving him if needed. The front henchman grins darkly and says he'll crack Itsuki's skull open to see what's inside. Before he can react, Itsuki delivers a crushing punch straight to his face, dropping him instantly. Looking down coldly, Itsuki repeats that he told him to get out of the way. The remaining henchmen are stunned, unable to process how someone 7 levels below just knocked him out. One of them insists it was just luck. Furious, a masked henchman unleashes a B-rank flamethrower skill. Iberia panics, realizing there's no time to activate an artifact. Another henchman scoffs, calling it overkill against a level 0, but one senses something is terribly wrong. When the flames clear, Itsuki steps out unharmed, shielded by black ice wall. Iberia is left speechless, unable to believe he survived such an explosion. With a cold tone, Itsuki tells Iberia to step back so he doesn't interfere. The screen shows he blocked a B-rank fire skill and gained a 10% defense increase. Curious, Itsuki decides to test whether Black Ice Wall's passive activates again against the same skill. The masked henchman panics, wondering how ice is being used without a water elementalist present. Itsuki challenges him to attack again, saying he won't even defend this time. The man assumes it's a bluff and unleashes his strongest fire attack. Itsuki stands still, thinking that no matter how strong it is, it's still fire. Spectators whisper that his power rivals a level 8. The masked henchman drains all his mana, claiming it's wasted on a level 0. Moments later, he screams in disbelief as the attack fails. Itsuki realizes the passive doesn't stack against the same skill. With the test complete, he turns to the remaining henchmen and says, "It's time to end this farce." One brute claims he's found Itsuki's weakness and activates his B-rank flame barrier at full power. Itsuki calmly questions whether they think numbers will save them and raises Black Ice Wall again. Fire and ice collide in a massive explosion. The brute assumes a level 0's mana won't last long and plans to exhaust him. As the smoke clears, he freezes in terror to see Itsuki standing right in front of him. Itsuki notes that the passive only triggered once again. The henchman boasts that brute force will overcome speed. Itsuki mockingly asks if he's even trying and ends the man's suffering with a single blow that sends him flying. The screen shows his defense increased by only 3 points, confirming it's based on base stats. Turning to the last two, Itsuki recognizes them as lightning elementalists and decides to use them to strengthen his skill. With icy eyes, he asks if they truly believe they can escape. The two unleash Silver Serpent together, one shouting that he'll take Itsuki down with him. The system confirms both skills were absorbed, boosting Itsuki's agility by 10% total. With all 4 henchmen down, Itsuki wonders who Ri really is to have subordinates this week. He notes that Thunderwave's passive only triggers once per target, just like ice. Iberia looks at the unconscious men and laughs, saying he expected a tough fight and never imagined Itsuki was this overwhelming. One henchman groans, asking who Itsuki really is since he's clearly not a level 0. Iberia also asks about the skill. Stepping closer with a curious smile, Iberia asks a question that leaves Itsuki momentarily confused. With a grin, the blonde loudly declares that, together, they're the double-eyed duo and destined to become the strongest in the north. Itsuki ignores him completely, grabbing him by the collar and dragging him along, saying they need to chase Kinoshida. The blonde complains the entire way. One of the still-conscious henchmen mutters that the duo's name sounds pretty lame. Elsewhere, a bespectacled man notices the disturbance and assumes the so-called level 0 rookie must already be finished. However, he recognizes the beast that once belonged to Charles and decides he'll need to look into that later. He thinks there aren't many people outside the Alliance in the north capable of capturing Charles. Nearby, another participant sprints past someone and brags about his speed, mocking slower brutes. Suddenly, a bolt of purple lightning strikes him mid-run, sending him crashing to the ground, screaming in pain. Confused and furious, he wonders who attacked him at full speed. The man with glasses steps on his head coldly, lightning crackling around his body, and says, "That's what happens when you run ahead of him." He then orders his group to conserve their energy and not waste time on trash.